in solving the serious problem concerning the rotation, magnitude, and overwhelming rapidity in the Secretariat. The BISEC organization was able.
Allow me now to invite His Excellency Mr. Mnatsakanyan, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Armenia, to present his speech. Your Excellency, you can proceed.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary General, Excellencies, dear colleagues. I express our gratitude to the host, Romanian Chairmanship in Office, for organizing this informal ministerial and for the choice of the theme. Armenia reiterates its full support to the Romanian Chairmanship priorities and undertakings to successfully advance the agenda of the organization. I also thank the Chairmanship for tackling a wide range of areas of cooperation within the organization, and particularly appreciates the intention to hold a BISEC high-level conference on regional cooperation for the implementation of SDGs, as these universal goals are cross-cutting and concern all sectors of our economies and every aspect of our lives, which have been challenged by the outbreak of the pandemic, the COVID-19. Special thanks to Permis for exerting efforts to adapt to new realities imposed by the pandemic, to conduct the business virtually and online via web and video conference services, so the organization could continue its proper functioning. It has been also encouraging to know that during these challenging times, the organization was able to find some solution to one of its long-standing issues, the rotation of BISEC chairmanship in office. We welcome the decision of Albania, Georgia, and Moldova to assume the Permis-assisted chairmanship for the coming periods, and appreciate the flexibility of the Romanian chairmanship in office to accept the technical extension of its mandate until the end of 2020. Mr. Chairman, cooperation between governments is much in need to curb the pandemic and expedite exit from the crisis. We are convinced that the regionally and internationally coordinated policies can facilitate recovery and rebuilding of socio-economic systems in inclusive and sustainable ways and help prepare for future risks. Being a regional organization, BISEC can serve as a platform to advance the regional cooperation by bringing together all the relevant stakeholders to share best practices for addressing consequences of the COVID-19. The pandemic has particularly damaged consumer service industries and sectors such as travel, recreation, hospitality, tourism, SMEs and energy, and strained healthcare capacities of many nations. These sectors, along with emergency response, banking, ICTs, and in general trade and economic development, can be considered as areas of cooperation within the BISEC that member states, the organization, its related bodies can focus on. It is good to know that some ideas and initiatives have been already explored within the organization to respond to the negative economic impact of the pandemic in the region. As a landlocked country, Armenia underlines the importance of unfettered, efficient and cost-effective access to and from the sea by all means of transport on the basis of the freedom of transit, as well as development of regional connectivity and sustainable transport systems in the BISEC region, which became more vital at the time of the pandemic. Furthermore, forward-looking and positive economic agenda, depoliticized, inclusive regional economic cooperation and regional trade facilitation, the inadmissibility of unilateral coercive measures, including closed borders, lie at the heart of any regional economic organization, and certainly BISEC cannot be an exception in this regard. Mr. Chairman, we consider BISEC as a forum primarily for regional economic cooperation and partnership, and attempts to over-politicize and inject bilateral differences, including biased conflict narratives, into the agenda of the organization and its related bodies are detrimental to its principles, against the Charter, and will not serve its purpose. We deeply regret that Azerbaijan's systematic attempts to abuse thematic platforms of multilateral cooperation, including the BISEC. It is particularly regrettable that Azerbaijan recently transmitted notes verbal to Permis containing groundless and unsubstantiated allegations against another member state of this organization against us. We strongly condemn such attempts and behavior and find it totally unacceptable. It's an affront to the organization and its membership principles. While many nations around the world have been struggling with the pandemic, Azerbaijan has launched an aggression against Armenia in July, which clearly demonstrates why this particular member state has opted not to support the UN Secretary General's appeal for a global ceasefire during the outbreak of the COVID-19, not only in words, but also in deeds. Furthermore, the same member state publicly threatened to launch missile strikes at the Armenian nuclear power plant. This reckless and irresponsible behavior is absolutely incompatible with international law and the core values of civilized humanity. Mr. Chairman, following a strong performance in 2019, the Armenian economy, as anywhere else in the world amongst our member states, there was a significant negative effect on our economy by COVID-19 pandemic during these past months. Our government has proactively responded to the crisis, adopting widespread containment measures while supporting vulnerable social groups and most affected sectors of the economy. We have designed and have been implementing and continue doing so specific targeted 25 government programs to alleviate the pressures on the vulnerable social groups and the economy due to the pandemic. These have been introduced through rounds of social and economic stimulus measures to curb the negative impact. It will be useful to exchange information on the up-to-date measures undertaken by member states to fight the pandemic and their potential post-pandemic actions within the framework of the upcoming scheduled meetings of the BSAC working groups. We have seen how the technology and digitalization help mitigate the impact of COVID-19, as we have generated our own national experience in that. Countries that had digitalized their social, employment and business support services prior to the pandemic, and those with a clear digital transformation strategy, have responded quite effectively to the challenges posed by the pandemic. As many states had to switch to distance online education and learning due to the lockdown, the communication technologies and connectivity have been crucial to cope up with the new challenges. So we think the discussions within the relevant BSAC working groups may generate new innovative ideas on how communication and digital technologies can maximize the impact of such help to policy responses. Considering new regional economic trends and worldwide economic transformation in the post-pandemic era, we believe that the BSAC economic agenda of 2012 needs to be revisited to reflect these new tendencies and the wider global economic agenda, including the Sustainable Development Goals. Further strengthening of the BSAC can only be achieved by a comprehensive and continuous reform process, with a solid political commitment of the member states to fulfill the objectives of the organization and transform BSAC into a stronger and a more dynamic institution. Faced with the unprecedented challenge posed by the COVID-19 pandemic, we must not only join forces to mitigate, counter and prevent its spread and consequences, but also take steps towards building a viable and forward-looking cooperation within the BSAC framework for the post-pandemic period. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.